Hi, welcome to this conversation on artificial intelligence. We're going to be talking about human intelligence, its linkage to artificial intelligence, and we're going to be talking about the layers of architecture that go behind the artificial intelligence. What am I going to be talking about today? I'm going to be talking about human intelligence. I'm going to be talking about artificial intelligence. I'm going to be talking about the construct. And then, of course, we'll move into the layers, and then we'll touch upon algorithms, and then be prepared for the next chapter that will happen from here. Now, in this chapter, I'm going to be talking about human intelligence, which is the foundation of artificial intelligence. Now, if you look at, as organizations race to adopt artificial intelligence, there's one fundamental truth that goes behind it. Is that artificial intelligence is not a replacement for human intelligence. It is an extension of it. Every AI system that is built today originates from the human cognition of observation, reasoning, creativity, and problem solving. If you were to look at the cognitive function of the mind, if you're going to be looking at how the brain functions, we have neurons. These neurons follow a particular neural pathway. And these pathways define how are we going to engage with the external world? How are we going to take actions? And we can actually modify our neural pathways, and therefore the neuroplasticity comes into play. Now, if you were to apply this to artificial intelligence, that's exactly what's happening. In artificial intelligence, the entire human cognition process is being simulated in form of algorithms. Now, how does AI actually operate? We've got two layers that go along the entire configuration of AI. The layer one is the functional layer, which emulates what the human cognition is all about. This layer is directly acquired from human intelligence. It mimics human intelligence. As humans understand the reason and they take decisions, that's exactly how the functional layer of AI operates. It looks at the purpose, it looks at the context, it looks at the decision logic, it looks at the governance, it looks at the risk boundaries, and it also looks at the performance expectations, something that has to be set through the prompt that we provide to AI, which is the language that is between a human being and AI when it comes to collaboration. So, in a sense, humans actually provide the architecture of intelligence to AI. Now, if you were to look at the functional layer, primarily there are four parts to it. There's a perception part where AI takes in the data, it takes in the signals, all the inputs that it can receive from the environment. Then in the next step, it reasons and it plans. What does it do here? It analyzes the data, recognizes the patterns, and formulates logical decisions. After this, the action part comes in where AI translates the decision into a physical action. And should the human being agree to it, it is reinforced. If it doesn't agree to it, then the memory and the adaptation comes into play, where in the adaptation, the AI retains the context of the past interaction or improves upon its own performance. That's what can happen here. In the layer two, which is actually a cyber physical layer, in this layer, it's a technology layer that answers different questions as to how will AI perform the functions that a human being wants it to perform. In this cyber physical layer comes the machine learning models, the neural networks, the large language models, the data pipelines, the cloud infrastructure, the algorithms, the computing power. These technologies enable AI to execute the functional requirements that are defined by the human being. Without the technology layer, of course, functionality cannot be automated at scale. Therefore, what does the cyber physical layer comprise of? It comprises of the infrastructure layer, where we're talking about the GPUs, which are highly specialized processors. We're looking at servers, we're looking at the cloud computing resources. After the infrastructure layer comes the foundation model, where that's the brain of the AI. It includes models like large language models or LLMs or neural networks, which have been trained on vast amount of data to generate content, translate language, or classify data. Then comes the third layer, which is orchestration and tooling layer. This is the middleman. That's what engages the AI with the human being or the environment in which the AI is operating. This layer is often called the AI agent. It provides memory, retrieval tools, and routing to connect the foundation model to the real world. And finally, there's the application layer. the interface the user sees and interacts with. It could be chatbot window, it could be dashboards, it could be voice assistant. So there are these four layers that go in the cyber physical layer: infrastructure layer, foundation models, orchestration and tooling layer, and finally the application layer. Needless to say, without the functional layer and technology layer, there is no direction. Without technological layer, functionality cannot be automated at scale. However, the human AI relationship is very, very important. We need to understand that human beings need to collaborate with AI. Human beings need to provide the necessary intelligence. In fact, currently AI is learning, and therefore human decision, human oversight is extremely important in terms of how it goes through. My final thoughts before I close this conversation with you all: as AI becomes more powerful, the critical differentiator will not be who has access to the most advanced technology. It'll be in terms of how do you integrate AI across the entire value chain of the organization and bring it to scale. Because ultimately, every intelligent machine begins with a human idea. And the quality of artificial intelligence will always reflect the quality of the intelligence that goes behind it. Thank you very much. I'm going to catch you up in the next video where I'm going to discuss algorithms and I'm going to be discussing the learning models. Till then, bye bye.